want to talk to you today about the Southwest region. We're going to be talking about the land and water features. We'll be talking about climate, products and natural resources, as well as important landmarks and cultural things. So let's get started. The Southwest region is quite a large region. It covers a large amount of land, but it actually has the smallest number of states compared to all the other regions. So in the Southwest, there are 4 states. There's Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Only 4. So the Southwest region stretches west from the Gulf of Mexico off the coast of Texas to the Colorado River in Arizona. Mexico borders the region on the south. Now in this picture, you're seeing deserts because the Sonoran Desert and the Chilean Desert make up a large part of the land in the Southwest. The Sonoran Desert, which is this one right here, it covers most of the southern half of Arizona, all the way east to New Mexico. The Sonoran Desert has large sandy plains and bleak mountains. Branches of the Colorado River run through it, so many of the trees like cacti and shrubs, they find enough water to grow there. Beautiful flowering cacti and yucca make the desert seem more like a garden than the open sandy place that one might imagine. Now the Chilean Desert is the largest desert in North America, and you'll see the Chilean Desert right over here. Now, it's approximately 800 miles long and 250 miles wide. Most of the Chilean Desert is in Mexico, as you can see. In the United States, it extends to parts of New Mexico, Texas, and sections of southeastern Arizona. Now, looking at these pictures on the right, can you guess which desert is shown in these places, in these pictures? Yeah. This top picture and this bottom picture, those are the Sonoran Desert. You can see all that vegetation and growth. The middle one is the Chilean Desert. The Southwest has vast plains and spectacular canyons and colorful plateaus. The eastern part of the Southwest region is made up of plains, which are, as you know, areas of flat lands. As you can see in this picture, the Great Plains are the lowest lands in the Southwest region. The soil there of the Great Plains spreads from the coast of Texas along the Gulf of Mexico and into central Oklahoma. These plains are home to many farms and ranches. Farther west, the land rises to form the Colorado Plateau, and that's what you're looking at here. Now remember, a plateau is a high, flat landform that rises steeply from the land around it. The Colorado Plateau covers much of the northern New Mexico and Arizona. Much of the Colorado Plateau is fairly level, but it's crisscrossed by hundreds of deep canyons. Now a canyon is a deep, narrow valley with steep sides. The largest and most famous of these canyons is the Grand Canyon. And that's what you're looking at here, the Grand Canyon. It runs through 217 miles of Arizona. Parts of the Grand Canyon are a mile deep and 18 miles wide. The Grand Canyon is so deep that the top and the bottom have different weather. The Grand Canyon is made up of layers of rock. The bottom layers are more than 1 billion years old. At the bottom of the canyon is the Colorado River. This river has been flowing through the Grand Canyon for millions of years. The force of the water has caused the walls of the canyon to wear away over time. This wearing away of the rock is called weathering, and erosion is when that sediment gets transported away by the river. Weathering and erosion is why the Grand Canyon is so deep. This is actually the Colorado River. We're going to talk a little bit more about it. It travels south and west down through some of the driest parts of the country. Then it crosses into Mexico and ends in the Gulf of California. The Colorado River is 1,470 miles long. Now, many smaller rivers flow into the Colorado River. Rivers that join other rivers are called tributaries, and each tributary adds water and soil called silt to the Colorado River. Now, this silt is what gives the river its reddish brown color that you see here. What you're looking at here is the Hoover Dam. It's one of America's greatest manufactured structures, man-made. Hoover Dam was built to control flooding on the Colorado River and to store water. An area where water is stored is called a reservoir. The Hoover Dam was built more than 60 years ago. Lake Mead, that's the lake that's behind the Hoover Dam, it provides water for many people in the Southwest region. We can't talk about waterways without talking about this one, the Rio Grande, or the Rio Grande. In Mexico, they actually refer to it as the Rio Bravo. Now, this brings much needed water to the area. The Rio Grande is 1,885 miles long. It begins in the mountains of Colorado, and then it flows south through the middle of New Mexico. Then the river turns southeast, making a big bend along the border of Texas, where it empties into the Gulf of Mexico. The Rio Grande forms part of the border between the United States and Mexico. Now let's talk a little bit about climate. Let's think, what is climate? Well, climate is the weather conditions that usually occur in a particular place. And as we've talked about even in science, it needs to be about a span of 30 years until we think about its usual conditions, its usual climate. So what factors do we think about when we think of climate? We think about temperature, the amount of rain, and the wind. So let's talk about the climate of the Southwest. So since much of the land or the region is desert, it is hot and it is dry, and they get very little rain. Many places in the Southwest region have 300 days of sunshine a year. So the climate of the Southwest region is considered mild. Now, what we mean by that is that there are not a lot of changes in the weather. Because it's sunny and warm most of the time, people like to visit the region. The eastern parts of Oklahoma and Texas, they get enough rain to grow crops, but water still must be used carefully. When it doesn't rain for a long period of time, a drought can occur. A drought is a period of little or no rain, and droughts can cause serious problems because they hurt crops. Now I want you to study these bottom two pictures. What changes do you notice from the bottom left to the bottom right? This is a photograph of the same area, a section that's along the Red River. The one on the left is in normal conditions, but the one on the right is during a prolonged period of drought back in 2008. Study the differences there and you can see what the effects of drought has on the land. Now, much of the land in the Southwest area region is bare, so not enough rain falls for forests or other things like that to grow. So over time, plants and animals and people have had to adapt to living in this dry land. To adapt means to change in order to survive. Now, the Navajo, for example, they've learned how to grow corn and raise sheep with little rainfall. The desert animals have adapted to their environment too. Some of the animals in the desert are the Mexican gray wolf, which we see pictured here. And some of the other animals are the great horned owl, the golden eagle, and the rattlesnake. Now, many desert animals, such as the bighorn sheep, as you see right here, and the pocket mouse, and the antelope down here, they use cacti and other vegetation as shelter from harsh weather and as a source of water. Now, the bighorn sheep, they've adapted to the desert because they have big feet, which are good for walking on rough terrain. The bighorn sheep only needs to drink every few days, and the pocket mouse doesn't need to drink at all because it gets all the water it needs from the food it eats. Most of the desert animals are nocturnal, which means they hunt and they're active at night when it's cooler.